Have you ever seen a patient present with severe tremors or sudden paralysis, but their neurological exam and imaging come back completely normal? Welcome to the complex world of functional neurological symptom disorder, or FNSD. Today we are breaking down the exact psychodynamic defenses and neurobiological mechanisms behind these symptoms, specifically tailored for psychiatry residents looking to master this challenging diagnosis. If you find this breakdown helpful, make sure to hit that like button so this video reaches more residents who need it. Let us start with positive neurological symptoms. These are the added abnormal movements like tremors, dystonia, and non-epileptic seizures. From a psychodynamic perspective, what is happening here? First, we have conversion, where an underlying psychic conflict is quite literally expressed as an overt physical symptom. Then there is repression, where trauma or intense affect is unconsciously blocked from the mind and instead manifests somatically in the body. We also see dissociation, where the patient separates their experience from conscious awareness, which can produce these strange motor phenomena. And we cannot forget about primary and secondary gain. Primary gain means the symptom itself reduces the internal psychic conflict, while secondary gain involves the external benefits the patient might unconsciously receive, like extra attention, care, or the avoidance of stressful responsibilities. But what is actually happening in the brain? Neurobiologically, positive symptoms are driven by several key factors. There is often dysregulation in the motor cortex, basal ganglia, and thalamus loop. This abnormal connectivity or excitability produces involuntary movements even without a structural lesion. We also see functional connectivity changes, particularly hyperactivation in limbic areas like the amygdala and anterior cingulate, which then inappropriately interact with motor regions. This suggests that affect is directly modulating movement. Add to this a top-down inhibition deficit, where the prefrontal cortex fails to control motor output, and aberrant predictive coding, where a mismatch between expected and actual sensory feedback triggers these involuntary patterns. Ultimately, there is an altered sensoromotor integration where the brain relies heavily on internal models rather than actual sensory input. Now let us flip the script and look at negative neurological symptoms. These are the deficits like weakness, paralysis, anesthesia, and sensory loss. Psychodynamically, these patients often rely on regression, reverting to a less integrated state to protect themselves from psychological conflict. There is also a strong element of isolation of affect, where the emotion is completely split off from the physical experience, resulting in a functional loss. We frequently see denial, where the refusal to acknowledge affective distress physically manifests as a lack of motor or sensory function. Just like with positive symptoms, primary and secondary gain play a massive role here, allowing the avoidance of conflict via the symptom. Overall, this represents somatization, where emotional distress is expressed specifically as a loss of function rather than an active movement. On a neurobiological level, negative symptoms look a bit different. Instead of hyperactivity, we see reduced cortical excitability. There is a noticeable hypoactivation of the primary motor or sensory cortices when the patient attempts to move or feel. This is often caused by functional inhibition driven by limbic structures. Overactivity in the amygdala or insula actively suppresses those motor and sensory networks. This creates an abnormal prefrontal, limbic, and motor network imbalance that directly reduces voluntary activation. Furthermore, we see predictive coding suppression, where the brain's expectation of movement or sensation is downregulated, leading to an apparent loss of function. Over time, this can even lead to neuroplastic reorganization, with transient changes in the brain's motor and sensory maps in response to chronic stress or trauma. Understanding both the psychodynamic and neurobiological sides of FNSD is absolutely crucial for providing empathetic and effective psychiatric care. If this explanation clarified FNSD for you, please subscribe to the channel for more high-yield psychiatry breakdowns, and let me know in the comments below which psychiatric condition or mechanism you want us to deconstruct next.